All right, welcome back, folks. Today we have Flint Jamison with us, and I'm excited to have Flint with us here because he's done what a lot of people are looking to do. So he's been very successful in life, right? He's a family man. He's been very successful, working a job, and then he's transitioned to real estate where he's been uber successful. So, I'm sure his story is going to resonate with a lot of folks. So I'm super excited to have him here today. Flint, welcome to Dirty Boots Capital.
Thanks, Tony. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Start with, where are you located, Flint?
I'm in Denver.
Oh, cool. Excellent. I was just chatting with a awesome loan officer, for lack of a better term, out of Denver, Nate. Actually, I have his video that I'm going to be posting soon. So hopefully that provides a lot of value. Right before we jumped on recording this, we were talking about creating value for the viewers and the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Nate does some lending that I'm sure real estate investors will find very interesting, and that conversation is very valuable.
So many loan products for commercial real estate. I mean, let's put it this way. Banks love commercial real estate because commercial real estate is a business that generates revenue. So they love to provide loans to us. And there's a bajillion loan products out there.
Yeah, there are. Very confusing. And Nate just broke it down very succinctly. So I loved talking to him.
Cool.
So
check that out.
we're not here to talk about Nate. We're here to talk about Flint. And so Flint, share with the audience a little bit about yourself. So you're from Denver, give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I have a wife and 2 kids. They just turned 5 and 7 this month. But yeah, so my background, I'm an engineer and I spent most of my career in aerospace. Most notably, I designed some of the wing on the 787. So if you've flown on that, I'm biased. It's my favorite commercial aircraft to fly on. But beyond that, I became a program manager. I got an MBA. I managed $120 million aircraft mod for the military. Basically, we took in, say, commercial or business jet and did cool things to it and delivered it to the Air Force. So managed very large things with big engineering and operations teams. All that stress kind of drove me to, how can I invest in such a way that I can make myself a little bit more work optional so that I can freely move around, as in I don't have to be stressed about finding a new job or be stressed about, I just need to take 3 months off. Because if you invest appropriately, you can have some alternative sources of income.
Yeah. So you were in the situation that a lot of our viewers and listeners are, find themselves in. And that's not necessarily a bad place, right? We all go through this process. And a lot of it starts from our family roots, right? I know it did for me. They advised me, go to school, get a good education, you'll get a good job and you'll be set for life. And that worked until it didn't. I went to school. I got a good job. I got an engineering degree. I got an MBA degree. I had the credentials. I had a great job. And then I got laid off. Right.
Nothing's for sure.
Nothing is for sure. And so a lot of us, a lot of the viewers, a lot of the listeners out there find themselves in this situation. We want to provide them with some value and some, hey, there's a way out of the rat race. There's a lot of different ways, right? We talk, we're going to talk a little bit about real estate. That's what we do. And we love that. But starting a business is also a way to get out of the rat race.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of different ways, but the big thing is, I'm nothing special. Flint, I love you for being here, but I'm going to say you're nothing special, right?
Just another guy. Yes.
We
exactly.
were both born with 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 good legs, right? We were, we came into this world the same way. All of us did. So basically, you found yourself in a situation. You were working at a large company, like a lot of folks find themselves, but it's stressful,
Yeah.
How was it like? I can't even imagine. So you're working on these major programs, multi-million-dollar programs. The hours must have been crazy. The stress must have been crazy, right?
Yeah. I want to touch on something you just said a minute ago. Unpack it a bit more. Society has taught us, as you said, go to school, get a job, stick with your job, and write it, and pump all your money into these qualified retirement accounts and hide it from yourself for 40 years and hope that your nest egg is big enough to last you till the end of time. That script is specifically written largely for financial institutions and the government to keep you working. Now, we could go down a rabbit hole to hear my opinions about a qualified retirement account that I invested in for 20 years, of which I'm thankful I'm not, but we don't have to go there. But the point is, we need to flip the script. When it comes to retiring, you need to think of it like a business. If a business has negative cash flow, you're ultimately failing as a business. When we get into retirement, and we're just chewing away at our nest egg that may or may not be big enough to last till the end of time, is technically negative cash flow. You no longer have a positive income coming in from a W-2. When that clicked in my head, I realized that I needed to change the way I do things, because I would rather feel way more comfortable having these passive streams of income throughout my retirement. And you can start them anytime. Like, start investing now, get it going. That way you can be confident that not only will your money keep flowing till the end of time, but then it's generational wealth. You can put it in a trust. Your kids can hopefully learn to take it over. But to add more to that, the wealthy have on average 7 streams of income. They don't work 7 W-2 jobs. They invest to diversify. This is key. They invest to diversify their income. We love to tout diversifying your investments. How come we never talk about diversifying your income? You got laid off. You were totally qualified. You got laid off because the business went down. I mean, nothing is for sure. Your mother could come down with cancer and you have to go take care of her for 3 months, and you have to ditch your job. Anything could happen. So why not protect yourself? Think about yourself more so than being concerned about, I just need to pump my money into a retirement account, or I have stable income and 1 W-2 job.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Sometimes on this channel, we talk about, just adding more legs to your income stool. Like, if you have a stool that just has one leg built on your W-2 job, that stool is going to be very unstable. Metaphor. Right? We want to put on a second leg, a third leg, right? And so that's what we're trying to teach people and add value to their lives. Create that second income stream with real estate, create a third income stream with a business, right? Create a fourth one with, dividend producing stocks and bonds and different things, right? As you get more sophisticated, right? There's a bunch of different ways to do it. The rich do it 7 different ways. They also make money while they sleep. How cool is that, right? And that's what you and I do. We own rental property. We make money while we're sleeping, while we're on vacation, right? This is in perpetuity as well. Like you say, this is generational wealth. This is in perpetuity. Nobody's going to lay me off. Nobody's going to lay you off. Right. So those are great, really great points, Flint.
Yeah. So to circle back to your original question that I totally didn't answer, my life, you're right. It's long hours. It's hugely stressful. And I just was feeling like my life was designed around my career, not around my life by what I would design it to be. And when you have young kids, you really change. Like, when I was young, man, I would put so many hours into Boeing. Yeah. I didn't have kids, and I was just, making overtime thinking things were grand. But that's all my life was.
Yeah, but then you have kids, and now you're stuck because that's the foundation that you built at your job. Yeah. But now life is different because you have 2 kids, and your needs and your wants are different, but you're stuck.
Right.
So tell us, how did you get out of that, right? Because I'm sure the viewers and listeners want to know, like, how did Flint do it?
So it was a long path, and I hadn't discovered what I was doing when I got into it. I guess it was all serendipitous in the end, but I tried to invest smarter in the stock market, but I got so tired of the stock market because, one, I couldn't figure it out. Elon sneezes and the stock goes a different direction. And it's just like, it's so volatile. You can actually
it's manipulated. It's manipulated is what it is, right? It's manipulated by the politicians, by the media, by the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve just increased the rates just moments ago, another 25 bips. Even though we're facing into a recession, they're still raising rates, driving us further into that recession model. So it's all manipulated. And I too try to figure it out with stocks and things like that. And man, that just did not work.
Yeah, and there's a chart that Marcus Millichap did that compared the volatility of the stock market versus volatility of real estate. And it was astoundingly different. And just looking at the stock market volatility, people love to say, time the market, quote unquote, time the market. And you see the volatility, it's just up and down and up and down. It's like a heart rate pulse in a hospital. No one's timing that. It's going like crazy. In contrast, real estate, it does go up and down, but it's way more stable. It's way smoother lines. And I don't know about you, but I just decided that I want my money in something that's got more stability to it, and a tangible asset. You can't make real estate just go wild. I mean, it went wild in 2008, but how wild it went compared to what the stock market did, it was still more stable. And that's the whole recession was built around the real estate.
And we know for a fact, this is not the land of make believe. We know for a fact, we can look at the charts, and we are in a perpetual state of inflation. We are going to have some dips, along the way, and have some disinflation. I get that. And not everything is equal. Just because there's a dip of disinflation in one product doesn't mean that there's going to be an equal dip in another product. Electronics is a good example, right? Electronics have been in disinflation for years and years, yet real estate has been inflating, appreciating more and more during that same amount of time. So not everything, right? This is one of the teaching points we try to help people with is, when they come out, again, the politicians and the media, they like to paint with a broad brush and say, hey, we're going to have disinflation or whatever speak they mention. It doesn't affect things equally, but we do know when we look at these charts at a long enough time span, real estate does nothing but go up.
Right.
It just appreciates. So yeah, that's why I love it and why I'm
So
sitting
sorry,
on
you
it.
keep asking these questions and I keep going
I
off
know.
on these random tangents.
No,
So to get back
this
to
is
it,
good.
the stock market didn't like it. And then I did as what most initial real estate investors do. Society has taught us, well, if you want to invest in real estate, go buy a single family home. And I was, okay, so I started researching, and this is the time of bigger pockets, Brendan Turner, right back in 2008. Oh, there's this BRRRR strategy, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And then you know what? I'm going to level up on my first deal and do a duplex. So I did it. I BRRRRed a duplex. It was okay. It wasn't a successful BRRRR. The cash out refi didn't, I wasn't able to cash out refi. I just basically put all the money into this rehab and got it up to the value. I just financed it. So no money out.
Yep.
It was good. And then I sold it at the height of 2022.
Did it cash flow for you though? Like if you were to hold on to it?
It did. And actually, this is a key point. I got $300 a month per unit cash flow.
Nice.
Which, according to 2018 Brendan Turner, apparently the average is $200 per unit. I was like, sweet. Even though I didn't cash out refi, I'm really doing it. $300 per unit. I'm getting $600 a month. This is cool. And then I calculated it out. What's it take to get $100,000 off of repeating what I did, but assuming a 200 average per unit a month? I needed to do it 50 more times, essentially. That was an eye opener for me because the amount of effort and capital that it took to get that in place to make $300 a month.
A lot of effort.
Dang, it's going to take so long. That tenant ended up not being the greatest. I ended up selling it for a good profit. So it all worked out. But yeah, I had to find something else. And I wasn't going to sit around trying to repeat that again and again. I discovered syndications. And once I discovered that, I dove in head first, slowly dove in head first. I tell people, take action sooner. You don't have to be an expert at everything, but just start taking action. And because I would be in a much different place now had I started a year earlier when I actually could have.
Yeah, I love that duplex experience did not scare you away. I share the story of my first rental property that I purchased many, many years ago. And man, I talk about all the things I did wrong and the mistakes that happened and the failures. But despite all that I did wrong and all that went wrong, because it was my first one, despite all that, I actually still have it today. We're actually looking to 1031 into a bigger deal. Because I have a significant amount of equity just sitting there. I want to, move it along, level up. Exactly. But the point being, despite all that you went through with your first deal, and despite all the things that went wrong with my first deal, we stuck with it. And look at us today. We're free. We do what we want, when we want, because we want. We have a great amount of freedom in our lives. You have, beautiful family that you can spend more time with, and do fun things with because of real estate. Despite of all the things that may have been negative with your first deal and negative with my first deal, get over it. Guys, get over it. The listeners and the viewers, get over it. There's going to be failures along the way. You can't do this.
Just expect it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to learn from those failures. Don't be afraid of them. Face into them. No, I'm going to screw this up in some way. Face into it and know that, as long as it's not a major, screw the pooch, you're probably going to be okay. So,
right.
And it's not just, I will share, I have this conversation so many times, and it's not just me or Flint that have gone through this and have realized we did something wrong along the way. I think every single first-time investor screws something up along the way, or multiple things. In my case, I screwed up multiple things. So,
no matter what. And that's the thing. With real estate, you have to expect it. It's not if, it's when. You're going to have a bad tenant. You're going to make a bad decision. but it's not all bad. Yeah, you're going to learn something. You're going to keep moving. The thing that will stop you is your self-doubt and your fear that something is going to happen, and then you will never succeed because you'll never get started.
Yeah. So take us to the next stage of your journey. So what did you become, an LP in a syndication?
Yeah, I did. So while I was educating myself and being an active member, part of that is learning what an LP learns too. But I invested twice as an LP before I became active on other deals. It's great to do that because you get to start seeing communications and how they communicate and how I might want to communicate differently. Or and over the 2 years I've had those LP investments, I realized that particular operator underwrote cash out refi into the deal for, to advertise a return with a cash out refi. Since then, I had learned that you don't do that. It's not a good idea because, that was 2020. Those needed to be refied this year when rates were super high. And guess what? Their assumptions for a cash out refi were way off. So those deals didn't stand on their own without a cash out refi that made sense. And when it came time, the cash out refis this year do not make sense. So those, luckily they refied, but the deals are not nearly as good. Actually, they ended up selling one within 2 years. And, it was really just to be like, hey, here's some money, you got some returns, we're getting out of it.
Yeah, and I'm seeing some articles and hearing some stories with some some pretty sophisticated syndicators who have gotten themselves into some trouble running a little too loose. But I think this is good because it gives us pause and gives us all a chance to say, we have to sharpen our pencil. We have to be more realistic about rates, and at the end of the day, it protects the investor. It protects us as syndicators. So I think what's happening now is, in this higher interest rate environment, it's forcing us to be more efficient and more realistic with those returns, which is good for everybody.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of the operators who are a little bit more conservative, most of them, there's a lot out there who aren't assuming cash out refi, who did put in longer term fixed rates. Those are going fine. Even the ones where we have variable, those are hurting, but we're still cash flow positive. We're withholding cash flow to investors because it makes the best business sense, because we need to make sure that our cash reserves are healthy because we don't know what's coming up next.
We're doing the same thing.
It just makes, we're running a business and we're making the best business decision to make sure the asset is healthy, because ultimately in the end, if the asset's healthy, investors are still gaining. Our NOI is still going up. You may not be getting cash flow, but the NOI is still improving.
Yeah. So at what age did you officially retire from your W-2 job?
9 months ago.
Now,
I'm 42.
42. So 42, you were able to make the transition from job to full-time syndicator. Nice. Yeah. Excellent. So tell us about the deals that you're doing now in syndication. What are you doing? Are you in the multifamily space, storage units, blah, blah? What is it?
So yes, I'm doing multifamily, but I'm also doing built to rent now. I don't know if you've talked much about built to rent, but it's basically, we're building a development of single family homes explicitly for renting. So imagine it like a Class A apartment building, but all the tenants get to live in their own little house with a front yard, backyard, and they all have the amenities and on-site property management and maintenance.
Yeah, I do a whole spiel on how we're moving more towards renter nation. We are just in so many different ways, and anybody can dispute any one particular ways, but I have like 20 bullet points, outlining, everything from the politics of it to the economy to, society itself. You look at a lot of people, they want instant gratification. And I'm not like picking on anybody. It is what it is, right? We're living in the day of Amazon, where you can get something immediately next day. You can call or order on your phone, right? Uber Eats, right? You can have your groceries delivered by Instacart, right? All these things, it's a very sedentary type, lazy society, right? Nobody wants to go out on a weekend and paint the trim on their house like they used to do, 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? Nobody wants to paint the trim. Nobody wants to mow the lawn. Nobody wants to be taking care, so to speak, of the house. Oh, by the way, they also don't want the risk of, I need to replace the roof, and that's going to be a big expense because oil is high and labor wages are high, and right? There's these unknowns, right? So just from a societal aspect, society's moving in that direction of, I'd rather just rent than actually own that property.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that particular angle to that, but you're right. There is definitely a demographic out there of, they call it the lock and leave culture. So say your Zennials that they just want to be able to up and leave and go for 2 months to Europe.
Yeah.
And if they're living in an apartment, it's way easier to do that than if you are owning your own primary residence.
Yeah. I mean, and we have this could fall into society, it could fall into the economy. There's no more loyalty either way between the employer, employee, or vice versa, right? It's not like, my parents and probably your parents, they probably had longevity at the company they were with.
They were working for pensions too. Yep.
Right? There were benefits there and loyalty to keep them there. That's not the case today. So we are more nomadic as a result of. And so I'm going to just give a very brief plug. If for anybody who wants to learn more about how we're trending towards Renter Nation, I will be speaking about this at the Spartan Summit in October in Alabama. So look up Spartan Summit, and that's where you'll find me talking all about Renter Nation. So that's my very brief plug. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I think this is great that you're building these single family residents built to rent, because that is still the dream that people want. They want the picket fence. They want the backyard. They want that atmosphere.
They want their own space without shared walls.
Exactly.
The biggest demographic moving into them is millennials, because they're in their peak family forming years, and you don't want to raise a family in a little apartment. So everyone's migrating. But as everybody knows, the cost to buy a house is way higher than the cost to rent at the moment. And this is, I mean, historically, we have the biggest gap between cost to own and cost to rent.
Yeah. Are you having any issues? I'm curious, because I'm in the space, and I'm always curious what other people are experiencing when it comes to labor shortages and supply chain issues. Still, are you able to get appliances, trusses, things like? Are you experiencing any issues with that?
Yeah. So for the value adds, I mean, we're doing value add apartments too, but in that scenario, yes, there's some of that. And now I'm not an asset manager. I'm not directly asset managing, so I'm a little step removed here. But for the build to rent, right now we're doing still the engineering side.
Okay.
So we're finishing up the engineering. We're about 90% complete. On one of the properties, actually, we've started the infrastructure. So we're putting in roads and sidewalks, and utilities. At the moment, it's not the labor. A lot of what it comes down to in development, some things are at the control of not you, and that could be like getting engineering approved or getting the boring company out there to bore a sample and then provide you a report before you can move forward. And some of those things are just like, they aren't acting in your interest, or just doing their own thing, and you have to constantly be on them because they can delay the project.
Yeah. Yeah. So why, like, you were really quick to residential, you're in the residential space. Like, why aren't you in like self-storage or commercial office
I want to
space
be.
or,
Okay. So not office. I don't want to do office space. I don't really want to touch that. It's still too rocky out there.
Why don't you? So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, one, I haven't dug into it enough. I do know that there's some operators out there that are really liking it, because there is data showing that the office is coming back. A lot of businesses are showing metrics that the remote work is not providing the KPIs that they used to have as far as efficiency of employees when they're remote versus on-site. So I think there is a wave of that coming back. However, right now I'm still seeing, even the office buildings I was working in, we had moved to a different office, and those old offices are still vacant. So there's still, in my particular area, I'm not seeing motion towards office and wanting to own those.
So too much uncertainty.
Too much uncertainty. Yeah.
Too much uncertainty. Okay.
Self-storage, I really want to do that. I mean, it's always been really high on my list. It's this really weird asset class that is so resistant to everything. I mean, during a recession, they went up. During the good times, people own a lot of stuff. People love it. I mean, RVs and boats galore. There's just self-storage is just always there. And it has shown over history that it's just super stable no matter what. It's like alcohol. In good times, people drink, and in bad times, people drink. It's like self-storage. In good times, people need it. In bad times, people need it. I personally don't ever use self-storage. And I feel like I personally have failed myself if I own too much stuff to need a self-storage. But I mean, the data is there. And in contrast to your say your multifamily properties in general, they provide returns slightly differently. So your multifamily, your cash flow is typically lower, but your sale is higher. And in self-storage, you typically see numbers where you cash flow higher, but when you go to sell, the appreciation is a little lower. So it just provides a little bit different twist on returns.
Yeah, so the reason why I bring up those different asset classes, and it wasn't to pick on you, Flint.
No, that's good. I love having that
It,
conversation.
well, it's because I want to share with the viewers and the listeners, right? We go through, Flint, myself, others, when we're in the space, we kind of go through this critical thinking process of what do we want to be in, right? And we look at so many different things to
Yes.
decide what sandbox do I want to play in, right? We're not in multifamily space, residential space, because we're like, oh, we're so enamored with it. We're enamored with it. Yes, we are. But we got there because, like Flint was talking about office space, it's kind of like there's so much uncertainty. Some people are going back, some aren't. There's a societal thing going on there where if they're forced to go back to work, they might leave because we're more nomadic, right? So there's a lot of different issues. I'm not sure I want to play in the office space because there's just, you go through that critical thinking process, right? The same thing with self-storage. I love how you talked about, it's good during a recession, it's good during a boom. Yeah, I can resonate with that because I can take it to the third, fourth, and fifth degree, and I can have that conversation with myself because I'm so in tune with the macroeconomics and the societal and the politics and, all that's happening, right? We don't come to these decisions just like, oh, we want to be a multifamily because, the guy down the street is doing multi.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
a multi because, man, we've studied this, and this
It's a basic human need.
it is.
Shelter.
And I've actually so every once in a while I come out with blogs or whatever from my website, and one of the ones that I've been toying around is how real estate is the next gold rush. Because I really do see like real estate doing well for folks who are in it for
Yeah,
years.
I mean, the simple metric of God, this must have been a number in 2021. There's 3.5 million units shortage in the US, and the population keeps growing, and we are not building at that rate. To add to that, we needed to build 2 million units per year for the next decade just to keep up with the demand that they're forecasting. I haven't seen the latest numbers on that, but I mean, that was back in 2021.
Yeah.
We haven't done much to help fill that gap. So
Yeah.
economics 101, supply versus demand.
And all we do is, and this is where it becomes a little political, areas that we watch that the general population may or not connect the dots, but we do, right? The politicians are going around the globe just pissing off these other countries through sanctions, right? We put tariffs on Canada on lumber, and it's like, well, if you want housing to be affordable for folks so they can buy houses, don't put tariffs on lumber from Canada, right?
Right.
They are doing the opposite. So they'll come out and they'll like do a spiel about affordable housing and how we don't have enough, but then they'll go and put tariffs on people, right? And it's like, this is the opposite, right? So we watch these things, right? What people say and what they actually do, and then how do we position? Yeah, it's just another aspect of why we love multifamilies.
Right. Yes.
So tell us about Vestas Capital. That's a company you created?
Yes. So I am the founder of Vestas Capital. Actually, I am the sole Vestas Capital. It's me. But so what I tell people is I essentially partner with experienced operators and bring my investors, friends, and family along. When it comes to investing in real estate, you want to invest with the people that are experts in their niche, say self-storage, or the person that's been doing Dallas-Fort Worth Class B value-add assets for the last 6 years. They know the market and they know how to operate in it. But if you only know the Dallas-Fort Worth Class B value-add operator, that's the only thing you're investing in. And true to diversification, you can diversify across the country in Class A assets, Class C, built to rent, self-storage. So I didn't purposely put myself into this position. I found myself here once again serendipitously through my growth as an active GP, that I found a really good position to partner with stellar operators, because I think that is the number one thing. Invest in the jockey over the horse. If you got a good jockey, they can win a race with a so-so horse. And I just love to bring myself and friends and family and investors to that. So that's the value I bring.
Excellent. Do you always invest in a deal that you're bringing to others? Are you always you always have skin in the game? So to speak?
I try to. Now here's my caveat to that is, if I do 6 deals in a year, sometimes I don't have enough liquidity to put into 6 deals,
Yeah.
unless I'm putting in like, $10,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yes, I try to, mostly because I want my money in the deal, because I really love the return. I really love the operators. Sometimes, fact of life, I'm not wealthy enough to have infinite liquidity.
You're still young. 42. You're
Yeah.
still young.
But
So
I do have solo 401k, self-directed IRAs, and I'm investing in other people's as an LP still, because there I do have some liquidity that I move around. Unfortunately, the rules of those is I cannot invest in my own deal as a GP.
So if somebody has an IRA, does it have to be a self-directed IRA or just like a regular IRA that they can invest with you?
Yeah, you have to have self-directed no matter what to get it into this. It has to be self-directed no matter what to get it into an alternative asset.
Again, for viewers and listeners, there are companies out there that we can connect you with to be able to facilitate that. Should you ever want to move a self-directed IRA into, multifamily or self-storage or whatever, there's people that help do that, right? You don't
Yeah,
have to go it alone, right? Don't be paralyzed, I guess is what I'm saying. There's
yeah.
others out there to help you do that. So
No matter what, though, you have to have a custodian, whether you choose it to be managed by the custodian or you do what we call self checkbook control. You still have to go through an outfit that you can transfer your IRA money into that self-directed.
Yep, absolutely. So Flint, this was a lot of fun. I think a lot of value to the listeners. For folks that want to look you up and learn more about Vestas and Flint and what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's easiest vestascapital.com. If you can't remember that, investwithflint.com takes you right to the same place. Or if you want to jam with me on social media, I'm on LinkedIn all the time.
Awesome. Where can I just Flint
Just
Jamison?
/ Flint Jamison. Yep.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, Flint, thank you so much for joining us here today. Wealth of information. I hope the viewers and listeners take action around this in some way, shape, form, or another. Look Flint up, give him a call. He's a very friendly guy. So yeah, thank you so much, Flint. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Tony. It's been good.